been teasing about some of these names of offensive tackles that are out there and available, and there's a couple of them too that you could talk about possible trades. But again, I kind of feel like that the Cowboys are going to play with the guy they got, but we have to kind of go through this, and maybe there's somebody there that you like a little bit better. I don't think so, because the more I talk to the gang of 7 guys, they kind of feel like the best way to get one of these offensive linemen and one of these tackles is going to have to be through a trade. It's not going to be the guys that are out there on the street. Now, the one guy that they seem to like the most, if he's out, if you want to go out and get him, believe it or not, is Jason Peters.
And where is he right now?
He was with the Bears last year. He started 16 games for the Bears last year, and he came from the Philadelphia Eagles. The thing with Jason Peters is he's like 40 years old.
Yeah.
And
so there is a guy that's available?
Yeah.
He's just ancient.
Yeah. There's several guys that are available, but the one guy, like I say, I'm going to go through these names. Like they'll talk about like Eric Fisher, who's available, who was with the Colts last year.
We're getting a lot of texts about him.
And the gang of 7's like, he's at the end. Eric Fisher's done. And then I asked about, well, what about Darrell Williams? Who was with Buffalo. He played 17 games. He was a right guard, right tackle with the Bills, 17 games. And, they were like, no, that they moved on for him for a reason. And so I was like, okay, well, what about Isaiah Wynn? Now, Isaiah Wynn is a guy that you would have to trade for at New England. New England's the team that's kind of putting out there that they would be interested in moving on from Isaiah Wynn. Now, he played the most games he's played last year is what he did. But he's had problems with Achilles. He's had problems with his toe. There was always something holding him back. But he's a young guy. Now, there's people at the Cowboys, and I remember going back through my draft notes with him, they thought he was too small to play offensive tackle.
Oh, so they liked him more as a guard?
They liked him more as a guard.
Okay.
So if you're thinking about trading for a guy like Isaiah Wynn, when he was coming out of Georgia, they just thought he was just too small.
So they probably wouldn't make that trade then.
They probably wouldn't make that trade. Tevin Jenkins is another guy from the Chicago Bears.
And he's got a back issue.
He does have a back issue. He's a second-round pick. He's been in the league 2 years, and he came out of Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
So, there again, there's a medical, but that would have to be another trade situation that you're looking. Now, when we think about trades here with the Cowboys and draft capital, you also have to put in there the fact that they're going to get some compensatory picks. So if you feel like, hey, we can move on with a 3 or a 4 or 5 or something like that and make these things happen, yeah, you've at least got those things to fall back on. That way the formula works. You're likely going to recoup those picks as part of your compensatory package. So you shouldn't be afraid to go ahead and try and make that work. But as we speak, like I say, the Jason Peters one was really, really interesting because I was kind of thinking, man, this guy's like way, way too old, 40 years old and all that. But I had one of my general manager's buddies, I asked the question, I said, Jason Peters done? And he said, I picked him up last year. I watched him a bunch. And he goes, at the midpoint of last season, surprisingly, no.
Yeah.
No.
Tom Brady at tackles.
Yeah. He said it took him some time to get going. At the beginning of the season, he looked done. But the more I watched him, the better he got. So that was one of my guys talking about Jason Peters. And then so I reached out to another GM buddy, and he said, I asked about Eric Fisher. And again, that was near the end. I said, Darrell Williams, Buffalo, near the end. Jason Peters too? He says, yes, being near the end, but more left than those other two despite his age.
He's probably played the best. Now, I watched Eric Fisher a little bit last year, and he did struggle when I was watching some Colts football. But
he was also off the Achilles last year.
He was. So, hey, another year removed from that, maybe he's a little bit better. But Jason Peters would probably be the guy at this point that I'd have the most interest in, just for a year, just as a stopgap, even with the age. He's a Texas kid.
Yeah.
He's from Queen City, Texas. I think he grew up a
Darrell
Cowboys
Williams, by
fan.
the way, too, the Buffalo Bills guy, is a
Oklahoma Sooner.
Yeah, he's from Dallas too.
Yeah. Now, the thing with Darrell Williams is he's a right side player.
Right.
I don't think that helps you.
No, he's 6'6", 330.
Yeah.
Jason Peters was born to be a left tackle. It's what he does, and for the last
Future
few
Hall of
years,
Famer, in my opinion.
absolutely, he was like an All Pro. He was on like the All Decade team for the 2010s. So he would be a guy that I think you could probably like. Who cares about the age? I need you for as many games as you can give me right now.
And even just helping groom Tyler Smith.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's something where he could help him, even if they say, hey, we're going to start Tyler. Just having him now as a legitimate swing tackle if things don't go well, or just to provide insight and just help groom him.
Insurance depth.
Yeah, I think that's a good signing. But you might as well bring both Peters and Fisher in
and look at them.
Just have a look and see which
Work
one you
them
like
out.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, what kind of contracts are we looking at here? Are these guys who just want to play and are willing to take?
Well,
or are they,
Jason Peters was 1 year, 1.75 last year.
Yeah.
Seems like a no-brainer
That's the
type
Cowboys
deal.
He gave,
range
him,
then.
he
Yeah.
gave him 15 games.
My limit for Cowboys picking anybody up is $2 million, so that fits perfectly.
Yeah, and that's, to me, that's, because I was also asking about Wynn before I was digging into my notes about trading for him, and somebody was telling me, well, you're going to need $10 million for him to be, if you're going to trade for him. But Dallas has the ability with the cap space to be able to go get somebody like that. Now, we'll see with the whole thing with they think that maybe he's a little bit small for that position. So
Plus, they got to pay CeeDee Lamb and Trevon Diggs coming up here, man.
Yeah, they're
they
saving
did.
that money for a reason. What if the whole time they were saving it to go get Isaiah Wynn?
Rolling that $20 million over. It is
Guard that they're going to make play tackle.
It is just fascinating, though. If they didn't think that he was big enough to play tackle, I just don't see them making a trade to give up picks, which we know that they value, and then also pay him $10 million. Even though I liked Isaiah Wynn coming out of Georgia.
yeah, one of my other buddies here in the league says, it's he doesn't like any of the guys that are on the street.
That's why they're still available.
Well, Ty Nseki's like the best one.
So that's of the. I think we've got the best ones of the guys that people want.
Yeah.
If we're talking about Ty Nsekhe, they're not going to return my text.
Okay.
I'm
Right.
asking about legitimate possibilities
No,
here.
Tyler Smith hasn't played tackle since Tulsa, and even that doesn't count. So he hasn't played since high school, and he's still more ready to play than Ty Nsekhe.
Yeah, with all due respect, Jason Peters is much better than Ty Nsekhe.
I wonder, though, if they're in a situation where there's somebody that we're not thinking about as far as the trade goes. Now we could get into, if you don't want to move the picks, and you have the surplus. Is the surplus for potentially going to getting somebody, and how much are you willing to part from somebody to get a better quality tackle?
Like somebody in your front seven defensively, you willing to give up? I'd be willing to give up a number of those guys. The
Basham
problem
and Hill,
is,
right? Those are the two names that Bobby told us.
The problem is, but most people don't have like an offensive lineman that's like expendable for them.
Yeah.
Like, is anybody really going to trade for like a like an average front seven defender to go and give up a left tackle?
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. How committed are you? Are you committed enough to giving up? We mentioned I was on the Cowboys break this morning. We talked about giving up Tank. Do you feel like giving up Tank to get like somebody that maybe you're getting the future left tackle?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe you're getting somebody that's actually legitimate.
If Tank wants to, I mean, he struck a hell of a deal with the organization in the offseason, and I wouldn't want to go back on that trust with him and his agent so quickly. But if you get into the season and you're struggling and he wants to go play for a contender and someone is floating a future tackle and they need a pass rusher bad, then absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so we're committed to making this happen.
Yeah.
The Cowboys might not be as committed as we are to making this thing happen, right?
Well, I think right now with the Cowboys, and the reason that I mentioned that I was so excited about that last idea, Brian, is that they're going to want a long-term move.
Right.
They're not going to say it like Jerry Jones is out there saying it's time to step up and we'll see you in the playoffs. Yeah. They're more like the Rangers right now at the trade deadline, where they're like, we're not just going to rent a player. We're not going to spend significant assets to rent a player to try to save 2022. Can you be a long-term asset for us along the offensive line? I think they would very much be interested in those kind of deals.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
Couple of good texts that came in. One from the 214 with all the Tulsa slander. They want to see Eric go through a full padded practice with the Golden Rockets. I think that would be a blast to watch.
Golden Hurricanes, right?
Well, they said the Golden Rockets, but I think you're right. It's the Golden Hurricanes.
Yeah.
Now
He doesn't even know the name of the school.
The Rockets, Toledo Rockets,
that's
I believe.
the most disrespectful thing. Is
Hey,
he doesn't even
Tulsa's
know the
a
name
Golden
of the
Hurricane,
damn
I believe.
program.
They were.
Going after Chief like that. Chief in his prime could do that. You
Thank
give
you.
Chief a new back,
Thank
I'd
you.
bet on him.
100%.
Well, the back never really made it through
Nice to have a
junior
damn
year.
teammate to have my back, my
So,
broken back.
Hey, I don't want to hear anything from you about having teammates' backs.
Wow.
Okay, I've worked with you for 6 or 7 years, and I can't really name times where you've had my back.
Walchuk just gets joked on a lot, and it gets personal for him. And Bobby Bell did text me, texted us, by the way, to inform us that Tyler Smith actually played guard in high school as well. So according to my personal record book, Tyler Smith has never played left tackle before.
But what about Laramie
Good journalism.
Tunsil?
Thank you.
People are asking about Laramie Tunsil.
I would
with
trade
Houston.
DeMarcus Lawrence for Laramie Tunsil 100% right now. Let's do it.
What's the contract on Laramie Tunsil?
Oh, it's
How
a fat contract.
okay,
Wait, let's not start fat shaming now.
Well,
That's a lot of money.
Well, let me ask
by
you this
that.
though: Is
No,
Laramie
not that he's a fat man.
so Laramie
I think
Tunsil
he looks
then
pretty good.
is your left tackle going forward?
Yeah,
No
I
more
would- yeah.
Tyron Smith or anything like
Essentially,
that.
you're going to play Tyler Smith at guard if that were the
Yeah.
case.
Well, because if you really start thinking about Tyler Smith playing left tackle right now, like
Yeah.
in all honesty, we know Connor McGovern, who's going to be playing next to him at left guard, is not good. So that's a disaster. And now you're used to protecting Terrence Steele with Zach Martin and knowing that I got Tyron Smith at left tackle, so I don't really need to help him. I can slide my protection and help Steele. Well, now you're not doing that. So you have somebody you don't like at left guard in McGovern. We have somebody that we haven't seen play tackle in Tyler Smith, and now we're used to being able to slide things to help Terrence Steele, and now we can't do that.